sees the value in me, unlike your dumb. And I can't wait to divorce you.
He's looking up chopped bodies, decapitated head cartel graphic.
Yes, ma'am. My wife and another man were, I found them dead on the couch.
Okay, stand by.
Please help my wife. Please help.
We're good. Okay, hold on, sir.
He had nearly 1 million followers. He was days away from signing with a talent agent in Hollywood. And on the morning of October 21st, 2021, he picked up a gun, walked into a luxury high-rise apartment on the 35th floor of one of San Diego's most exclusive buildings and shot 2 people dead on a couch. What Ali Abulaban, known to the internet as JinnKid, did not know at that moment was this. He had left his iPad in that apartment earlier that morning. An iPad with a listening app running. An app that recorded everything. Every footstep, every door, every shot, his own voice, on the phone with his mother immediately afterward, shouting that he had killed his wife, the camera that had made him famous, the phone he had pointed at himself for years, performing for millions of people who thought they knew him, had nothing on the device he left behind by accident, the one that caught everything. Stay with me, because this is not just a story about a murder committed by a social media star. This is a story about a man who performed a perfect life for nearly 1 million people, while the woman who made that performance possible was living in terror behind the camera. What makes this case even more devastating is not just the violence of October 21st. It is the years of documented abuse that preceded it. The TikTok live streams where Ali Abulaban can be heard calling the police in the background while her husband performed for his audience in the foreground. The world that saw JinnKid and the world that Anna lived in. They were never the same place. To understand what happened on the 35th floor of the Spire San Diego apartments, you first have to understand what Ali Abulaban had built and what he had built it on top of. Ali Abulaban was born in Staten Island, New York. He joined the United States Air Force and was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, where in 2014, he met a young woman from the Philippines named Anna Marie. Anna was warm, patient, and generous in the specific way that people who grew up surrounded by love tend to be. She was, by every account of everyone who knew her, the kind of person who made the people around her feel cared for. Her sister would later stand in a courtroom, overwhelmed with grief and rage, and say that Anna was the most loving, patient, gentle, and forgiving person she had ever known. She was forgiving. That detail matters. It will matter again. Ali and Anna fell in love in Okinawa when Ali was discharged from the Air Force allegedly following a physical altercation with one of Anna's friends. They moved together, first to Virginia, close to Ali's family, where Anna discovered she was pregnant. They married in 2017. And then, when their daughter Amira was still very young, they moved to San Diego. The move to San Diego was Ali's idea. He had discovered something in himself, or constructed something that he believed was the foundation of a career. He was funny, charismatic. He could do impressions that made people laugh with the specific, effortless quality of a natural performer. Under the username @JinnKid on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, he posted comedy sketches and character impressions, most famously, a dead-on recreation of Tony Montana from Scarface that caught the attention of millions. Nearly 1 million followers, millions of views on individual videos, conversations with talent agents and producers in Los Angeles, a seat at the Comedy Store the weekend before everything ended. He was right there. He could feel it. His cousin Louis said later, JinnKid was an escape from Ali Abulaban, being an actual human being. He wanted to be this different entity, super famous. Behind the camera, pointing it at himself, performing Ali Abulaban was JinnKid, confidence, magnetic, larger than life, behind the camera in a different sense, holding it steady while Ali performed, occasionally appearing in videos herself, building her own following quietly and separately, was Anna. And what Anna was living was not the life that appeared on screen. The relationship between Ali and Ali Abulaban, as investigators and prosecutors would document in careful, damning detail, was not the partnership of equals that the TikTok videos suggested. It was abusive from early in their marriage, and it became more dangerous as Ali's online ambitions grew and the gap between the person he performed and the person he actually was began to widen into something impossible to maintain. Ali was jealous, controlling, possessive in the specific suffocating way that leaves no room for another person to exist independently. He became convinced repeatedly that Anna was being unfaithful, a conviction that had little grounding in evidence and enormous grounding in the particular psychology of a controlling man who has built his ego around ownership of another person. He began using cocaine, a lot of it. His own cousin recalled an incident where Ali pulled out a full large bag of cocaine in front of the family. When asked about consequences, Ali's response was, "I'm JinnKid. I can do whatever I want. Nobody can touch me." He later acknowledged in a jailhouse interview that cocaine made him violent, made him aggressive. The abuse became physical. Anna had called the police during arguments. In one of Ali's own TikTok live streams played in court during his trial, Anna can be heard in the background, calling 911, while Ali performed for his audience in the foreground. The same audience that watched him do Tony Montana impressions had, without knowing it, witnessed the soundtrack of a domestic violence call. He would live stream arguments with Anna, post videos of himself berating her, post content about their relationship problems while simultaneously presenting, in other videos, the image of a happy family man building something beautiful. Two lives, running simultaneously, one for the camera, one behind it. Anna endured it. She stayed. She was forgiving that quality her sister described, and she took him back again and again after separations and promises, and the specific cycle of abuse and reconciliation that experts who study domestic violence describe as both psychologically predictable and devastatingly difficult to break. But in October 2021, something shifted. Anna had had enough. On October 18th, 2021, she asked Ali to leave their apartment, the 35th floor unit at the Spire San Diego, a luxury high-rise in the East Village neighborhood. Ali moved into a nearby hotel. Anna began, quietly but clearly, building the life she would have without him. She was planning to file for a restraining order. She was filing for divorce. She was leaving. And Ali Abulaban JinnKid, the man with nearly 1 million followers who had told his cousin that nobody could touch him, could not accept that. On the morning of October 21st, 2021, 3 days after Anna had asked him to leave, Ali Abulaban entered the apartment while Anna was taking their 5-year-old daughter, Amira, to school. He had a keycard, a secretly copied keycard that gave him access to the building and the unit, even after Anna had effectively ended the marriage. He used it. Inside the apartment, he did 2 things that tell you everything you need to know about the state of his mind and the nature of his intentions. First, he vandalized the apartment, threw away some of Anna's belongings, moved through the space that had been their shared home with the specific destructive energy of a man, asserting one last time that he still had power over something. Second, he activated an app on his iPad, a listening application. Installed on the family's iPad, the device their 5-year-old daughter used so that Ali could hear, from his hotel room nearby, whatever was happening inside the apartment. He left the iPad in the apartment, and he left. He sat in his hotel room and listened. Anna came home. She called her friend Rayburn Cardenas Barron, a 29-year-old man who had been part of their social circle, someone Ali knew and had reportedly been jealous of because of an offhand comment Rayburn had once made about Anna's beauty. Anna asked Rayburn to come over. She needed help cleaning the apartment, dealing with the aftermath of what Ali had done to the space that morning. Rayburn came over. They sat on the couch together, and Ali Abulaban, listening through the iPad app in his hotel room down the street, heard a man's voice in his wife's apartment. He heard Anna laugh, and he decided in that moment that he had heard enough. He picked up his gun. He drove to the Spire. The Spire San Diego is not the kind of building where things like this happen, or at least that is what its residents, looking out over the San Diego skyline from their floor-to-ceiling windows, might have told you. A luxury high-rise in the East Village, concierge, views of the bay, the specific architecture of a building designed to make its residents feel that they have arrived somewhere safe and elevated and separate from the ordinary difficulties of the city below. On the afternoon of October 21st, 2021, Ali Abulaban arrived at the Spire with a handgun. He took the elevator to the 35th floor. He used his copied keycard to enter the apartment. Anna and Rayburn Barron were sitting on the couch. What happened next took seconds. Ali shot Rayburn Cardenas Barron 3 times in the head and neck at such close range that the medical examiner would later find soot on Rayburn's cheek from the discharge of the weapon. He then turned the gun on his wife. He shot Anna Abulaban once, in the middle of her forehead. They slumped against each other on the couch. And then Ali Abulaban stood in the apartment where he had once lived with his wife and daughter and performed comedy sketches for millions of people. And he took out his phone. He took a photograph of the bodies. He sent it to his mother. He called her on the phone, shouting, saying that he had killed his wife. The iPad was still in the apartment. The listening app was still running. It recorded all of it. The shots, the footsteps, the phone call. Ali's voice, telling his mother what he had done from inside the apartment where he had done it, captured by the device he had placed there himself to spy on his wife. He had left the camera running. He just didn't know it. Ali Abulaban walked out of the Spire San Diego apartments, got into his car, and drove to pick up his 5-year-old daughter from school. He collected Amira. He drove with her. And approximately 5 hours after the murders, he called 911 and confessed. He was arrested that same evening. But what investigators found in the apartment and in the digital record that Ali had, without knowing it, created of his own crime, was devastating in its completeness. The iPad recording caught the audio of the murders, the shots, the specific sequence of events that Ali would later try to characterize as a fog, a snap, a moment of such overwhelming emotion that he had no control over his own actions. The recording said otherwise. His phone call to his mother, made from inside the apartment, with the iPad still running, was captured. His own voice, shouting what he had done. Prosecutors later noted that he had also taken a photograph of the bodies and sent it to his mother. Not the behavior of a man in an uncontrollable emotional fog. The behavior of someone who knew exactly what he had done. The listening app itself was its own evidence. Installing a surveillance application on a child's device to monitor a spouse inside their own home, planning it in advance, activating it that morning, sitting in a hotel room listening, and then acting on what he heard was not the behavior of someone who snapped. It was the behavior of someone who had been building toward a specific outcome. His TikTok history was also examined. Live streams in which Anna can be heard calling the police in the background. Videos in which he filmed their arguments. Content in which he berated her publicly. performing his rage for an audience that had no idea it was watching something real. Nearly 1 million followers, and not one of them had seen what Anna was living. Prosecutors led by Deputy District Attorney Taryn Brast argued the case with precision and clarity. She told the jury that Ali Abulaban was so possessive and controlling of Anna that if he could not have her, no one could, and she couldn't live. And any man she was with could not live either. She told them he wouldn't let her go. She wanted to be single. She told him over and over, but he refused to accept it. The trial of Ali Abulaban began in May 2024, nearly 3 years after the murders. It was, from the outset, a case in which the central facts were not in dispute. Ali Abulaban did not deny that he had shot Anna and Rayburn. He did not deny that he had been in that apartment. He did not deny that 2 people were dead because of him. The question the jury had to answer was not whether he had killed them. It was whether he had meant to. The defense, led by attorney Jody Green, argued that Ali had been driven to the brink, that months of marital breakdown, combined with a serious cocaine addiction, undiagnosed mental health conditions rooted in a traumatic childhood, and the shattering emotional impact of walking into the apartment and seeing his wife with another man, had combined to produce a state of mind in which he was not capable of the deliberate, premeditated intent required for first-degree murder. Jody Green told the jury he had been overcome with what he was seeing, that he was in a fog, that he had begun firing and could not stop. Ali himself took the stand. He spent nearly 3 full days testifying, a volatile, unpredictable witness whose composed demeanor periodically shattered into outbursts of anger and tears. He described the moment he entered the apartment and saw Anna and Rayburn together. He said, "When I saw that it was him, I couldn't take it. I couldn't take the betrayal, and before I could stop myself, I just snapped. My gun was in my hand, and next thing I'm shooting, and I can't stop." The prosecution played the iPad recording. They showed the jury the photograph he had taken of the bodies and sent to his mother. They reminded the jury that he had installed a listening app on his daughter's device specifically to surveil his wife, that he had activated it that morning, that he had sat in a hotel room listening and then driven to the building with a loaded weapon. They asked the jury whether the man they were describing, the man with the surveillance app, the copied keycard, the loaded gun, the photograph sent to his mother, was a man in a fog, or a man who had planned exactly what he was going to do. The jury deliberated. They had heard 18 days of testimony. They had listened to the iPad recording. They had watched TikTok videos. They had heard from Anna's friends, from Rayburn's family, from expert witnesses on domestic violence and psychology and forensic evidence. They came back with a verdict: guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The special circumstance allegation, committing multiple murders, was found true, which under California law meant one outcome, and one outcome only: life in prison, without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted in applause. Ali Abulaban turned around, and rather than absorbing what had just happened to him, the weight of 2 lives taken, a daughter left without her mother, a sentence that meant he would die in a prison cell, he mockingly joined in on the applause himself, then turned back around and appeared to mutter an expletive at the room. September 6th, 2024. Ali Abulaban stood in a San Diego courtroom and read a 10-minute handwritten statement. He spoke to Anna. He spoke to Rayburn's family. He said he was incredibly sorry. He said if he could undo all of it, he would not hesitate. He described the prospect of life in prison as honestly feeling like being sent to hell. Anna's sister, Hermai Sartan, stood and faced him. She screamed at him in the specific, uncontainable grief of a person who has lost someone irreplaceable and has to share a room with the man who took them. She said, "If I had known what my sister had been through with all that abuse, if I had known, I would have flown again to see her and to take her and Amira from you." Rayburn Barron's sister described her brother as the youngest of 5 siblings, her baby brother and best friend, a man who had hoped to raise his own family someday. All of it was stolen from him. Rayburn's mother said her son was full of light, with a whole life ahead of him. Judge Jeffrey Fraser sentenced Ali Abulaban to 2 consecutive terms of 25 years to life. He told Abulaban, "The bottom line here is, he will die in prison. He will never be a free man. He will take his last breath there." The courtroom erupted in applause again. Anna's family and Rayburn's family had shown up to every single day of that trial. Every day. In a room where the details of what happened to the people they loved were laid out in clinical, photographic, recorded detail. They had sat through it all. They applauded. Here is the question that this case demands you sit with. Not the forensics, not the iPad recording, not the verdict. How does a man with nearly 1 million followers, a man who performed joy and confidence and humor for an audience that loved him, become this? Forensic psychologists who study intimate partner homicide describe a pattern in cases like this one that is both specific and disturbingly common. The controlling partner who has built their identity not just around their relationship, but around the performance of that relationship. For Ali Abulaban, the TikTok persona of JinnKid was not separate from his sense of self. It was the most real version of himself he had ever constructed. The version that got applause, that got followers, that got recognition. And Anna was part of that construction. She held the camera. She appeared in videos. She was in the architecture of JinnKid's public life, a supporting element of the performance. When she tried to leave, when she stopped being a supporting element and became an autonomous person who had decided the performance was over, Ali Abulaban experienced that not as a marriage mending, but as a fundamental dismantling of who he was. His cousin said it plainly. JinnKid was an escape from Ali Abulaban being an actual human being. When Anna walked away from the marriage, she was not just leaving a husband. She was pulling the screen away from the person behind it, revealing that JinnKid, the confident, charismatic, almost famous performer, was a construction, and that the actual human being underneath had been for years a man who hit his wife and called the cocaine that made him violent something he couldn't control, and screamed at judges in courtrooms and mocked the applause of a room full of people grieving the woman he had married. He could not let her reveal that. He could not let her leave. So he installed a listening app. He drove to a building with a gun. He walked into the apartment, and he made sure that Anna Abulaban would not be able to tell anyone what she knew about the person behind JinnKid. The iPad told them anyway. In the momentum of a case that centers on a social media personality, on the followers and the videos, and the TikTok persona, and the dramatic courtroom testimony of the man who killed it, is possible for the victims to become secondary. They were not secondary. Anna Abulaban was 28 years old. She was from the Philippines. She had followed her husband across the world from Okinawa to Virginia to San Diego, supporting a career and a dream that was his, not hers, while building her own quiet following and her own quiet sense of self that her husband resented the moment it existed independently of him. She was the most loving, patient, gentle, and forgiving person her sister had ever known. She had been trying to leave. She had been planning a restraining order. She had called police during arguments that her husband live-streamed to his audience. She had been trying, in every way available to her, to build the distance between herself and the man who frightened her. On October 21st, 2021, she called a friend to come over and help her clean the apartment. That friend was Rayburn Cardenas Barron, 29 years old, a man his mother described as full of light, with a whole life ahead of him, a man his sister called her baby brother and best friend, a man who had come over to help a friend and was shot 3 times at close range because the woman he was sitting with had a husband who had decided that if he could not have her, no one else would be allowed near her. Rayburn Barron had done nothing to Ali Abulaban. He sat on a couch. He was shot for it. Their family showed up every day of that trial. They carried their grief into a courtroom for 18 days, and they watched and they waited. And when the verdict came, they stood up and they applauded. Not for themselves, for Anna, for Rayburn, for the people who deserved so much more than what they got on the 35th floor of the Spire San Diego on a Thursday afternoon in October. He was right there. That is what Ali Abulaban kept saying. In interviews from jail, in testimony from the witness stand, he was right there. The talent agents, the comedy store, the career he had been building for years, one impression at a time, for an audience that loved him. He was right there, and he threw it away. Not impulsively, not in a fog. In the specific, deliberate sequence of a man who installed a listening app on his daughter's iPad, sat in a hotel room and listened, drove to a high-rise with a loaded weapon, used a copied keycard to enter an apartment he had been asked to leave, and shot 2 people on a couch, and then took a photograph of what he had done and sent it to his mother. The iPad recorded all of it. The device he had placed in that apartment to surveil his wife became the evidence that proved he had planned to kill her. The technology he had depended on, the cameras, the devices, the platforms that had made him famous, turned on him in the end. Not dramatically, not through any one revelatory moment. Simply by running quietly in the background of a crime he believed he could control the narrative of. He could not. Ali Abulaban will die in prison. He will take his last breath there, as the judge said. He will never hold his daughter Amira again as a free man. He will never perform at the comedy store. He will never sign with that talent agent. The career, he said, was right there. It is gone, in the most permanent and irrevocable way. Anna Abulaban was 28 years old. Rayburn Cardenas Barron was 29. Amira, their daughter, who was 5 years old on the day her father collected her from school after murdering her mother, is growing up now without Anna, in a world where the TikTok videos still exist, where JinnKid's impressions are still accessible to anyone who searches, where the performance her father built is still technically visible, while the woman who held his camera and loved him and tried to leave him is gone. The camera caught him. Not the one he pointed at himself, the one he left behind. Anna Marie Abulaban, 28 years old. Rayburn Cardenas Barron, 29 years old, full of light, with whole lives ahead of them. Say their names. If you are in a relationship that frightens you, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Because Anna Abulaban deserved to walk out of that building alive. And so do you. Next week, a killer who confessed to the wrong person. And that person went straight to the police.